Hi, I'm Matt Lynch. I work for Procter and Gamble, and my role in the company is to kind of create the new and transformative products that don't exist today. So you think about some things that you would like to have a product do, and in part, it's my job to kind of create that product. We've been working with NASA the better part of about 10 years, up with NASA Glenn, the great people up there. And really, we've been trying to solve a technical problem that is really important in terms of this new product design. In particular, we can think about a new product. We put actives in the product, and those actives have this tendency to want to separate. They might cream to the top, they might sediment to the bottom of the product. And the real trick is trying to figure out how to keep all those particles suspended and do it in a way, though, that allows me to dispense the product. And so it seems potentially on the surface to be a really easy thing to do, but it's really, really difficult. The problem is that physics is pretty complicated. Over time, things like thermal motions tend to randomize the structures that we set up. And we can envision things like gravity kind of pushing against them constantly, kind of compressing them and things like that. So how do we describe that kind of coarsening physics, and how do we understand and harness that for what we need in our products has really been the focus of what we try to do over the last number of years. When we make the products is we measure the products. And most of what we measure is something that's an observable, right? So I will see, for example, a layer on the bottom of water, for example, on the bottom of the product, and the top of the product there is getting at the microstructure of that is just all really kind of fundamentally guesswork unless you have data to guide that. The guesswork can be good, but it also can be terrible, and it sends you off into wrong directions. What we get off of these measurements are a way of refining those microstructures that give rise to those changes, and it gives us much better models to kind of create more accurate and better ways of defining these kind of separation timescales and why they happen, and how do we control those. You might ask a more generic question: what is the value in basic science, the value in understanding, the value of creating models to a business? If you think of the alternative that a lot of companies do, it's sort of a world of mixology. It is, I've got A, B, C, and A makes the hair feel good, and B and C have to be there for various reasons. I put all that together. There is no transformation to that, right? It is simply a matter of, if you'll forgive the analogy, maybe a kid in the kitchen mixing things together, and what you come up with is what you get. The alternative is to really understand the fundamentals, and which includes physics, that allows you to put things together in new ways, and ways that are transformative and that are groundbreaking. That takes away, in a sense, the mixology, replaces it with a lot of deliberate and interesting designs into very new spaces. The company makes a huge investment in R&D, and it's to create that discontinuous new curve, the new way of doing things that other companies can't. And the benefit of that, not only for the company, but the benefit for people, is you get new products that do really interesting and new things and great things for you, and you get those a lot faster. So I would envision that putting people in a capsule for 4 to 5 years, all the resources have to be very, very constrained, right? In other words, you don't have the option of turning on a faucet and pulling more water out of that station. Everything has to be contained. And then to the extent that that's really where we envision consumer products going in the world, there's a very natural coupling between the interest that NASA has in doing things in a very resource-constrained environment and really what the world's kind of coming to. And it's a big push in the company to work our way over to that, understand that, how to design for that. Water is a big one. Power would be another one. Many geographies don't have either very well, and how do you access those consumers? That's a big swath of people, underserved people, that we'd like to kind of get to. And the last thing I would say to that is, our business is all about living well, living better, improving lives. There are astronauts that are going to live on a space for 3, 4, 5 years, whatever that time frame is, a long time. And I think improving the lives of those astronauts in that environment would be a very useful thing to do for them, as we do for people outside. So the connection seems really obvious at a number of levels.